Absolutely. And I just want to give a quick shout out there. Jonah has been doing these great reports and insights on the market, and there's obviously some great covers there from Omar. So definitely want to give a big shout out there. And the market does still look good despite this week's slight fall. I think, Kyle, nothing major or alarming. But with that, I think we can go right into our main topic for today, which is all about the Howey Test and also something you might have heard of called UNI. So I think for those of you who do not know, what the Howey Test is, it's the rule of precedent that the SEC uses to evaluate whether something is actually considered a security or not here in the United States.
You're absolutely right, Herwig. This was the biggest issue for ICOs and cryptocurrencies. The main question was that are they financial instruments that the SEC needs to regulate or not? And the Howey Test is what we used over and over again by both issuers and regulators alike to try to prove their point. And that's exactly the issue, because it's just not a perfect system and it was not optimized for blockchain and cryptocurrency. There is room for gray area. In fact, that gray area is surfacing once again with DeFi. Our main topic actually is chosen today because of the recent release of the Uniswap utility token with the ticker UNI.
Yeah, there were already rumblings, that came out about whether some other tokens were considered securities or not in the DeFi space, but this latest one really has people talking. So maybe, Kyle, could you give us an overview of what's happening with Uniswap? Some of our listeners might not actually know.
So if you've been listening to the podcast, you may recognize Uniswap. And Uniswap is a decentralized exchange providing liquidity for any Ethereum-based token. The exchange launched a tech stack that allows for seamless swapping of tokens by leveraging smart contracts. This process is known as an atomic swap, which we covered in much more detail in episode 41. They've also added functionality to allow for whitelisting of wallet addresses, which is crucial for the transfer of security tokens on their platform. With a whitelist, they require that a wallet address be approved by the issuer before the address is able to trade that token. In this way, an issuer can ensure that the proper KYC or accreditation standards are met before Uniswap provides the liquidity. Uniswap earns the title of a decentralized exchange because there is no centralized team that is actually running the exchange, powering the liquidity, or approving listed tokens. Any ERC20 token issued anywhere can be listed and exchanged on the platform, and the liquidity of each trading pair is powered by the users who stake tokens in exchange for fees on each transaction. While the Uniswap Foundation, who built the whole thing, also does take a little cut. Because of the transparent, open source nature of the Unicorn protocol and the Uniswap exchange, coupled with the ability to list any Ethereum token, this platform became the de facto standard for liquidity in the DeFi space, with Uniswap volumes actually surpassing Coinbase in daily trading volume in August, which it still maintains as of recording this episode. This is no small feat, and Uniswap is no small company. So, Uniswap has been the main topic in the entire crypto community this week because they recently airdropped a token to all investors, founders, and users of the platform. I also own some, by the way. Using September 1st as a cutoff date, the firm literally airdropped 400 tokens, Uni tokens by the way, to anyone who's ever used the platform before. That means if you've made a swap or even failed the transaction but attempted to use the Uniswap platform prior to September 1st, you are entitled to a free 400 Uni. There's literally no strings attached. You just have to pay gas, which right now is maybe $10 on Ethereum. These Uni tokens allow for the ability to govern the decentralized protocol and vote on decisions made by the company. Unlike many other governance tokens, this one actually has users and a developed product, so the governance actually has consequences here about what their decisions are around fees and around different listing processes and liquidity in terms of their automated market making. So this does have consequences. This is real value. After the airdrop, the tokens were immediately listed on Uniswap Exchange because they're on Ethereum, and they're currently trading for around $4, but hit a high this weekend of over $8. That means that anyone, even tangentially familiar with the platform, likely earned a quick few $1,000s in real US dollars last week. I'll note that if you haven't claimed yet and you feel that you might be eligible because you had some experience with the platform, just log on to app.uniswap.org, connect your MetaMask wallet, and you should immediately see a big pop-up allowing you to claim your tokens. Since the launch of the token, we saw a ton of lawyers as well as non-lawyers jump out to claim that the Uni token is a security. While we've seen buzz before about other governance tokens potentially falling in this same category, I certainly haven't seen the reception this strong in the negative direction about a token like this before. So with all that out of the way, I think we have enough background on Uniswap to dig into the regulatory pieces in play here, Herwig.
Thank you, Kyle. It was a very thorough rundown, and I think sets the stage of why this is kind of such a big deal. So let's dig into why critics are calling it a security using the Howey Test. But of course, before we do that, we need to go over the Howey Test itself, of course. So first, I'll start with a little backdrop from where this ruling even came from. Now, that there was actually an SEC versus W.J. Howey Co. case, so let's change gears to that and go back all the way to 1946. So the Second World War had just ended, and good old William John Howey wanted to sell some land with citrus groves on it. Now, William John was violating securities laws because he was advertising his investment opportunity to non-accredited investors, which violates general solicitation laws set forth by the Securities Act of 1933, which wouldn't get amended to allow for general solicitation, of course, until 2013. But the problem in the case was whether or not what William John was selling was considered a security or not. And not to get too much into the weeds, but William John Howey was trying to be clever and also offer a management company that will service the land and the citrus groves exclusively and will not allow any other vendors to do so. So it's a little bit of tricky and sly stuff that probably the SEC doesn't like. Needless to say, the case ultimately determined a set of criteria that must be fulfilled in order for a financial instrument to be considered a security regulated under the Securities Act of 1933.
Right, so that's where the term the Howey Test comes from. Obviously, William John got nailed with being a security. So what criteria did they come up with?
So there are primarily 4 criteria, and all criteria must be met. The first is an easy one. There must be a counterparty making an investment or contributing money and resources. The second is that there is an expectation of profits or returns from making that contribution from the counterparty. And it's also expected that there is a common enterprise, the third, that's used to create these returns. This removes any issues of direct loans and things like that. You have a common enterprise that's providing all of this. And of course, that means that there are active efforts of others making sure that this happens. So in the case of Howey, he had investors that put in money and expected money back out, while the common enterprise was the land and citrus groves business, while the work came from the management company that serviced the land that John William Howey operated. So the 4 prongs were met, and these 4 prongs now determine what is considered a security in the United States. Although also keep in mind, folks, we are not attorneys. We may sound like it.
So that's a good explanation, I think. So if we circle back to Uniswap, let's take the view from the critics and say that it is a security using the Howey Test. I think obviously Uniswap, the company, and the protocol is considered the common enterprise here. The work from others could be considered the employees or for-profit corporation of Uniswap, which itself has raised $11 million from outside investors. Then there's this expectation of profit regarding investors as well as their investment. The important distinction here is that the tokens were airdropped. No one purchased them before they were created, so making the claim that there were investors is definitely a little bit more difficult. But the critics are saying that because anyone can go to Uniswap to purchase tokens and on their exchange, and that most people are purchasing them with an expectation of profit, means that they're probably, in fact, investors expecting profits from those shares.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to dissect here, I think. But first, of course, the common enterprise will come into question because I assume the counter argument is that Uniswap is a decentralized protocol and therefore there is no common enterprise solely developed off of the work of others. And by airdropping the tokens, I know back in the ICO days, the remedy was to do exactly that and not allow ICOs before tokens have an actual use. So the question will likely fall around the UNI use case and how it was launched on day one. Could the airdrop be interpreted as a marketing tactic to build demand in order to create price increases? Or is it a method of decentralization? Is the power to change the protocol, in fact, now being completely in the hands of the community, decentralized enough to get it away from that common enterprise example? So definitely so many ways you could look at this. And I think this demonstrates exactly why the Howey Test has plenty of gray areas when it comes to being, sort of this supposedly perfect tool to evaluate whether something is a security or not.
Absolutely. And luckily, when it comes to security tokens, as we as an industry already embrace needing to follow these regulations. So largely, the Howey Test will become the new plague for DeFi tokens if the laws are not amended for fringe use cases. I think the strongest argument from Uniswap's perspective as for why it's not a security lies in the idea that the protocol has become fully decentralized. The SEC and other financial regulators have hinted at the idea of sufficient decentralization being a key indicator of whether an asset would be considered a security, and Uniswap makes a strong argument on that front. It has users around the world transacting in a fully decentralized manner. The founding team has fully removed itself from the development of the newest updates in the protocol and are even removing themselves from the governance in the protocol moving forward, which you can track on Etherscan based off of if they've staked their tokens or not. If the SEC deems this a security, the question remains: who is in charge of upholding the requirements and punishments here? Uniswap is almost fully running autonomously at this point, which makes holding the founding team accountable for the actions of the community something that seems relatively antiquated for me.
Unfortunately, we are in an antiquated world. So I think I totally agree with all your points, but let's see how this all, ultimately plays out for the Uni token. And with that, hopefully our listeners got a good understanding of what the Howey Test is and why it defines security specifically in the US. And I think with that, we can end the show here. So I want to thank you all for being awesome listeners. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Security Token Show.
Yeah, and please, if you have any questions or feedback, please reach out to us on Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere else you want to chat, or join the rest of the community in voting, submitting, and commenting at stomarket.com/news if you wanted to get more involved. We want to hear your thoughts on whether you think Uniswap's Uni token is a security or if you think it isn't. And be sure to catch us again next Tuesday. And thanks again for listening.